Great. The webinar is started. Where did our attendees go? Oh, there we go. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I think I'm just gonna wait. I think there's one more. Okay, cool. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Research and Involvement series, which is a component of STEP, the Summer Transfer Enrichment Program. If this is your first time, welcome. If you've been here a couple of times, welcome back. We are almost at the end. Research and Involvement series. So some of you might know that the Research and Involvement series can help you learn about ways to get involved in all things research at UCSD and also resume support. As well as myself. A little intro to me is my name is Elizabeth Vasquez, pronouns she, her, ella, and I'm the Research and Involvement Coordinator at the Triton Transfer Hub. So similar to the Research and Involvement series, I'm your point of contact of to connect you to ways to get involved on campus, connect you to research, and also provide some resume support. And I am a resource for transfer students year round. So starting fall quarter until next summer, I am a resource to you, and I am at the Triton Transfer Hub. Research and Involvement series. So some of you may be familiar with this series, and this is just a list of all the topics that we've done. We've done Get Involved at UCSD, so talking about internships, research, experiential learning. We did do a resume workshop. We had a general research at UCSD webinar. Last week, I talked more about topics, labs, and areas. And then today we're going to talk about how to outreach to faculty for research opportunities. So if you're interested in watching the past webinars, you can visit us at transferstudents.ucsd.edu for our past session recordings. We have a recaps page where we have the recorded sessions for all our past webinars and sessions for R&I, and then also transfer talks as well. And then thanks, I'm in first and in the chat. All right, so coming up, we're at the end. So this is it, what you see on the screen. So next week we have Transfers Connects, mentor mapping. We'll have an in-person session and then the virtual one. And then lastly, this will be once fall quarter starts, which is welcome day for STEP participants. And this will be in person. So if you're eager to meet us in person or other people who did STEP as well, please welcome us for our welcome day barbecue. All right, so again, we will do how to outreach to faculty for research opportunities today. All right, so we'll get right into it. So how to find faculty, and we'll start this because in order to reach out to faculty, it's important to know how to find faculty. So we're gonna go step by step on how to do that. But just so for your knowing, other ways to find faculty is one, office hours, and this is once fall quarter starts. You are able to visit your faculty and professors during office hours and class as well. Also, once fall quarter starts, this is also one way to get involved and get in touch with faculty as well through classes that you're going to take or you have taken if you're taking summer classes by chance. So definitely these two. Another one is the faculty directory, which you can find at profiles.ucsd.edu. I will say that this one isn't my favorite, but it's also an opportunity just because sometimes it's kind of hard to, like if you put in a name for a professor, it's a little hard. Sometimes we don't get the full results, but I will open that up. So profiles.ucsd.edu. This is what it looks like. And this is a search bar, find people. It's not my favorite, but also a way to find faculty at UCSD. And then lastly, another way to get in or how to find faculty is your major department website, right? So your major department website has lots of information based on your major, like career fields, your major advisor, faculty that are associated or affiliated with your major department. So this is probably the best way, in my opinion, to get involved with faculty or find faculty in your major or your area. And we will go into that now. So how can I find faculty? So we'll check one out together. We're gonna try the bioengineering one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the major department website for bioengineering at bioengineering.ucst.edu. Number 2 is going to locate the faculty webpage. Sometimes it's going to be a tab. Sometimes it's going to be under a dropdown. Each major department website is different, so there's some navigation needed for each major department. And then number 3, we're going to click on a faculty profile. So usually you can see either the name and photo of a faculty, and we're going to click that. And then number 4 is we're going to select lab website. Not all faculty will have a lab website linked. And then after this, in lab websites, typically we'll see more with more of our STEM majors. And so I'll do an example for the social sciences after we do bioengineering. And then number 5, we're going to look for contact info or ways to get involved with research with that particular professor, faculty that you are searching. So I will do that now. So we will go to bioengineering. And then this is the bioengineering department website. So we're going to go under faculty. It's nice that this one's a little easy to navigate because they have it right up there in this main bar. So we're going to go to faculty. Then if you scroll down, you're going to see all the faculty that are affiliated with the bioengineering department. So we can take a look around. You usually see their name, the title, the type of professor, and then their lab as well. And so we're going to go with the first one. So we're going to go with Brian Aguado, who's a professor in bioengineering. You can read a little bit about what kind of research he does, some LinkedIn, some Twitter information, a bio about him, like maybe some education history. And so this is a faculty profile, a UCSD faculty profile. So what we're going to want to do is go to his lab website. So usually that lab website is linked, and we can also see it. Let's see. Oh, we can also see it linked on that first profile. So either way, we can do either one. All right, so we're here and we read engineering biomaterials for sex-specific precision medicine. So that gives you an idea on this particular research group / research lab, right? And if you're interested, you can take a look around. But we're going to look for a couple of things. So we're going to look on the team tab. And we're going to look on the team tab because we want to see if there are undergrads that are working in this lab or part of this research group. So we see Brian Aguado, who is a professor. We see some PhD students. We're going to keep on scrolling down, PhD students, more doctoral students, and then aha. And so we see a couple of undergrads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, like, oh, that's a good sign. We saw some undergrads. So we're going to keep looking through, and let's go to contact. All right, so contact information. And now we found an email for this professor. It's at baguado@ucsc.edu. This is their email. It's just formatted kind of funny, and it says @ instead of like the symbol. But this is where you would find the email. And then because I see another tab section at the top that says undergraduate research, we're going to click that. So we see some pictures. We've seen some, like I see this picture of like maybe the team outing, going out for dinner or something like that, which is cool. It also says, are you interested in undergraduate research in the Aguado Lab? Please click below to apply. We're going to click that just to see. And then it looks like it's an interest form for this particular lab where you put your name, email, major, class year, resume. So something to note, and something I've said in the past couple of webinars as well, it's always nice to have your resume handy. And again, we had a resume webinar. So if you're interested in looking at that and how to update your resume or create your resume when it comes to research, definitely check out our past webinar. All right. And then it asks a couple of questions. What are your research interests? Why would you like to work in the Aguado Lab? And then for these two, something to note and something that might seem a little, everybody might know this, but for these type of questions, if you're applying to a research lab, please do complete sentences, right? So that is my only recommendation for these as well. For mentor, it says, please refer to the team section of our website and list 1 to 2 mentors you would like to work with. We visited that team section, so we got that. When can you start working? And then how many hours per week do you intend to work in the lab? I will say typically what I hear from students who are working in research labs or volunteering, they do 8 to 10 hours of a commitment per week. And the more hours that you can commit is more beneficial for that lab. So something to consider when you are thinking about how many hours to commit. All right. So we'll go back to our presentation. So we looked at the major department website, located the faculty webpage. We clicked on the faculty profile, selected that website, and then looked for contact info or ways to get involved with research. Right? And something else, and this might be familiar if you saw our last webinar, but some green flags, right? So number 1, if you see any, these are green flags for when you're doing your faculty profile search or looking for research opportunities, research labs with faculty in the way that we just did. So number 1 is, do you see any previous or current undergrads mentioned? Yes, so we saw that with the Aguado Lab, right? This is a sign that they are open to having undergrads if they currently have or have previously had undergrads. So this means that there's a chance for you, right? There's a chance for you to join that lab should you have interest. Number 2, a join us or contact us tab or contact info. And we found all 3. So we found contact information. So we found his email. And we also found a join us tab, right? That undergraduate research tab on how to apply. So we found that Google form, right? So this is possible information, how to get involved with research, the lab, a research project, or research opportunity. It's a good sign. And this is where directions on how to apply may also be located, which is what we saw with the Aguado Lab. And then number 3, photos of the lab out celebrations where lab folks are now. So we saw that, right, with the Aguado Lab, where we saw a couple of pictures of the team doing some team outings. I think I saw also a picture of them doing rock climbing, going out to dinner. This gives you an insight on what that culture is like for that particular research lab, research group, research team dynamics. And also gives you an idea if that research is a good fit for you and vice versa, right? Maybe you're like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to have these type of team outings. Maybe you're more of an introverted person. You're like, actually, I wouldn't want to do all of that. I just want to do research. At least for the Aguado Lab, the example that we just looked at, it looks like, yeah, that they're pretty close-knit and that there's a lot of outings, getting to know each other. So again, if that's something that's interesting to you, a green flag to look out for. So these are some green flags to consider when you're doing that faculty search in one, looking for research labs, looking for research opportunities, and also to see if you'd like to work with that professor as well or faculty. And something to know about these green flags is that they are a little bit more catered to the STEM research labs. So because of that, we will do a social sciences example. So we're going to try another example, but this time we're going to use anthropology. So same thing, we're going to go to the anthropology major department website. We're going to locate the faculty webpage, click on the faculty profile. We're going to select lab or personal website. And then again, just to note, not all faculty will have a website linked. And then we will look for the contact info or ways to get involved with research. And I apologize if I didn't say already, feel free to utilize the Q&A feature that we have on this Zoom webinar. I have allotted for about 10 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer any questions live or answer questions myself by typing. So feel free to leave some questions in the Q&A feature. All right, so anthropology, we're going to go ahead and go there. And so that takes us to anthropology major department website. So again, like I mentioned earlier, each major department website is structured differently. So we kind of have to navigate each department website differently. So let's see, about us, people, there it is, faculty. And then this is all the faculty that are affiliated with the anthropology department. And it's kind of different here in that they kind of break it up into categories. So the top one we see is anthropological archaeology, and then we have biological, keep on going down, psychological. So I like it when major departments do that. It's easier for you to kind of filter out based on what your interest is. Linguistic, sociocultural, and I think that's it. All right. So we're going to click on Professor Braswell here. So this one looks kind of different to the bioengineering one, right? But still same idea, a bio about the professor, publications and CV. You can also click that to look into what kind of publications the professor has done. We got the contact info already, we got the email, office, and then we also see a personal website. So let's look into that. And keep in mind, this is archaeological anthropology. So again, similar to Aguado one, right? An intro about what kind of research or research topics that this lab specifically specializes in. We can explore and look at lab info. And then we can look at projects to see what kind of projects have been done. And what we're going to do is go to contact and more contact information. So it's very different to what the Aguado lab is, but still gives you information on the type of research that they've done, projects. And I don't see any personnel, which is fine. Or I don't see any undergrads on here, which is fine. We can still email this professor if you are of interest. Okay. So I want to try another one that doesn't have a lab website. So we're going to go to Professor Algaze. So we have an email, contact information. We have a little bio about the professor, research, publications. So we have some more stuff, but there's no lab website that's linked. And that's okay. And that just means that we can email the professor to learn more. All right. So we saw some contact info and how to find faculty in different major departments. And I encourage you to use this method to contact faculty. All right, so I kind of got to this, but what if there's no lab website listed? What if you don't see the green flags that I mentioned earlier? When in doubt, send an email, right? Go for it anyway, because you never know what kind of research opportunities or what kind of information you can get by emailing that professor. Right? So while it's good to consider the green flags that I mentioned, and use the method that I mentioned as well, you just never know, right? It's if you just email anyway and you don't see any of that stuff. So that kind of leads me to our next section, which is making that connection with faculty and how to do that. All right, so ways to make connections. Office hours, right, is a time unless it's listed or said by the professor, but office hours are a time to talk about the course. If you have questions about the course, about assignments, studies, you can also ask about research and also ask that professor in their office hours about research. TAs and grad students, they're also ways you can also reach out to them to inquire about research opportunities or how to get involved. So they are also a resource for you. Classes, of course, if you had a class with a professor, sometimes having an established relationship with a professor is helpful when reaching out for research opportunities. But the connection that I'm going to focus on today is cold emailing. And a cold email is a first-time email that you send to somebody without prior contact. And for a lot of us here in this webinar, you might be in this situation, right? As incoming transfer students, this is your first quarter at UCSD. You don't have established relationships with professors, and that's okay because it's not a requirement, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about cold emailing, email etiquette just in general, and what to say in that email. Because as transfer students, again, I know some of you are eager to get started or getting involved with research. So hopefully by today you will have the tools to know how to email professors, how to find professors, to make those connections. All right, so we'll get into it. So who, when, and what to include, right, when you're emailing or doing the emailing process of reaching out to professors. So who, reaching out to 2 to 3 faculty is usually a good place to start. Once you have like your top 3, read their recent publications and look up things you don't know and make connections with what you do know, right? And so let's say you're looking at Professor Aguado's publications, and there's just some things that are sound familiar to you, but also some things that are new to you when you're reading about the type of research that his research lab does. That's okay, right? If you're interested in learning new knowledge, that's a good sign. But if you're also interested because you're like, I have a personal connection to this research topic, that's also okay, right? There's no rules when it comes to that. But who you should reach out to, 2 to 3. And it's always good to read some publications. And another note on that is that those publications might be really long papers or something like that. You're not expected to read that whole publication, but at least have an idea of what it's about, or at least take some ideas. So you do have to do some of your own research when reaching out to professors for research opportunities. Okay, when? So if you're applying for a research program and you're asking for a faculty mentor, or you're asking a faculty to serve as a faculty mentor for a program, give at least 5 weeks until the program app is due. In past webinars, I talked about research programs, specifically ones that are under the Undergraduate Research Hub. And some of these research programs, when you apply, you have to have a faculty mentor already. And again, as transfer students, you might not already have these, established relationships with professors, and that's okay. That's why we have cold emailing. So if you're interested in learning more about those research programs, definitely check out the past webinars. There's a faculty mentorship program and the TRELS program, which is the Triton Experiential Learning Program. So definitely, if those are of your interest and you need a faculty mentor, give at least 5 weeks before that deadline. All right. Avoid summers and end of quarters. These can be off track or busy times. We're in the summer right now. So it's not to say that you shouldn't reach out to professors, but just know that because it's summer, professors might not be too attentive to their inbox. So it's a good time to learn how to reach out to faculty. You can definitely reach out to faculty now, but just know again that it might be a little slow in a response. Just like a heads up. And then last, what to include. So prioritize what they ask for. If they mention anything on their website or have a form to connect them, follow those asks first. But just in general, a good practice is to include resume, transfer or a transcript attached to that email if it's asked for, definitely, if you're applying to their research lab. But just in general, what to include is just prioritize what they ask for if you're applying to a research lab. All right. So my recommendations, and then I forgot to put, but these are my recommendations for a resume. So just a little bit, and again, we have a resume webinar that we have and that was recorded on our recaps page. But just so you know, it's always good to have a resume handy. So right now is a good time to start putting together that resume if you haven't already, or updating it if you already do have a resume, right? So my recommendations when it comes to having a resume ready specifically for research opportunities is 1, adding your associate degree, using that About Me section to highlight your research area of interest. If you have any grad school aspirations, whether for master's, doctoral, also have related and additional experience to allow you to highlight related courses, work, while also sharing skills you have learned working retail, restaurants, etc. So a note on this is I see a lot of transfer students in our one-on-one appointments, talk about, I want to, apply to this research program, or I want to apply to this research lab, but I don't have any experience in research. Right. So I hear that a lot from students. And my response usually is that as an undergraduate student, you're not expected to have a long resume or long list of research experiences. So that will not be expected of you. Research labs, professors, faculties, PIs, who are principal investigators that lead research labs, they're not going to expect you to have a long list of research skills, research experiences, projects under your belt. They know that you're coming to UCSD to gain that experience, right? You come to UCSD to learn and to gain the experience that you need to be successful in your career, right? So something to keep a note. So with that being said, and with knowing that, something that I think you should put in your resume when applying to research opportunities is, any related courses that you might have. Questions that I ask students is maybe in community college or your 4-year or whatever prior institution that you're transferring from, maybe you took a course, right? So maybe for anthropology, maybe you took a course in your prior institution before you transferred, and you wrote a research paper. Maybe you worked on a research group project that you're really proud of, or that you're like, oh yeah, this was a really interesting topic. This is something that you can put on your resume, and this is also considered experience, right? So things to take note of. And then another question that I also get is, well, again, I didn't have any research experience, but I worked in retail, or I worked in the food service, right? So I've had students who have been like baristas and saying like, what should I put on my resume? I have nothing to put on. Like, you can put your experience at working as a barista, but just know that those are also transferable skills, right? You can use those skills to your advantage, right? You were shift lead and you managed a group of people and their schedules. That is time management. That is communication, and that is teamwork. So those are 3 skills right there for you. So just know that there's transferable skills that you can use. All right, so going back to the last bullet point that we have here is, if appropriate for your field, add skills, coding languages, lab skills, etc. So definitely add all these good things to add on to that. Certifications, awards, you can definitely input that into your resume. So again, all this good stuff, you can check out our resume webinar that we had earlier this month. All right. So back to the basics about what to include in an email, right? We have do's, and then we also have don'ts. So when emailing, what you should do is include the why this professor is interesting. And then I'll talk a little bit more about that structure of email and talk more about what it means to include the why. Number 2, include the program. How would you like to work with them, right? So if you're applying to a research program in particular, and you're asking them to be your faculty mentor for that program, let them know in that email. And this shows time commitment and possible payment of what you might get for that research program. Tie what you know to what they are doing. So again, reading their papers, publications that you see on their faculty profile, making connections where you can. This shows them that you have critical thinking. So this will be a good sign for them when they see like, oh, wow, the student did their research. They know about my publication in X topic. That's a good sign. And then lastly, make that ask clear. And I'll talk more about that and how to put that into your email when you're emailing faculty. On the right-hand side, we have the don'ts. So these are the don'ts for emailing faculty. 1, casual greeting, like, hey, hello, hi. You definitely want to use words like dear. That's a safe bet. Number 2, address them by their first name. So if you're contacting faculty, you definitely want to use either doctor or professor. For example, Brian Aguado. You don't want to say, hi, Brian. You definitely want to say something like, dear Professor Aguado. That's definitely something that you should do in your email. Commit right away or beg, right? In your email, you want to sound professional. So phrases like, I would do anything to work in your lab, are not going to translate that well when professors see that. So definitely you want to stay professional. And then lastly, not reread to be sure you have what you wanted. So I cannot emphasize enough the amount of emails I've read where, where students have sent, the wrong email to the wrong professor because they made like copies of the same email. Definitely proofread, edit, and have a second pair of eyes look at that email. And on that note, I'm also can be those second pair of eyes. So starting fall quarter, if you do have like a draft of that email that you want to send to a faculty, you can definitely email me or book an appointment with me, and I can be your second pair of eyes for that email. So definitely have somebody reread it if you don't reread it yourself. Proofread. All right. Moving on. So this is the big example that I have for you, and we'll go through it one by one. So like I said, dear Dr. last name of that professor. And then paragraph 1 is going to be your introduction, right? Here's where you're going to introduce yourself, your name, your major, your future aspirations, and how your future aspirations connect to research. And when I say future aspirations, you can mention that, I'm looking into doctoral programs, or I'm interested in a master's degree, or I'm looking to go straight to full-time, or I'm looking to start in the industry of X area, whatever it may be for you. So this is something that you can include in your intro. You can also include that you're a transfer student too. Okay, I just transferred from X school. You can definitely mention that. In paragraph 1, again, if you're applying for a program, link the webpage and mention that you will get credit or pay through that program, so that this is helpful for that professor because it takes the pressure off of them to need to like coordinate the academic credit that you need, or the payment that you might need, and this is a benefit for them. So definitely if you're applying for a program and you're either getting academic credit or paid for it, definitely mention that in that email. And again, if you're interested in what programs you can get credit for or what programs you can get paid for, definitely look back to our past research webinars. I talk about the undergraduate research hub programs, and definitely something to look into. Okay, so moving on, that is your paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 is appealing to the researcher. So why are you interested in their lab or research, or why are you interested in their projects in general? What is interesting to you? What experience do you have that relates to their study? So there's questions to ask yourself. Right? And then you can definitely tie in the readings from your work to them. Can you link what research they are doing to something you have learned in classes? You can mention it again to show your critical thinking and reasoning. So definitely, as you're seeing, these emails can't be cookie cutter emails to each professor, right? You can have maybe one template like this, but definitely tweak it and change it for each professor that you send it to. All right. And then paragraph 3, which kind of works as an extension of paragraph 2, is going to be your ask. So you want to be specific, right? So one example of an ask is that you can see there is there a time in the coming weeks that I can meet in person or over Zoom? Another ask could be, do you have office hours I would be able to attend in the coming weeks? And again, if you're looking for a faculty mentor for a research program, another example of an ask that you can put in paragraph 3 is, would you be interested in serving as a faculty mentor for X research program, right? So you definitely want to be clear on what your ask and intentions are in this email, right? You want to thank them for your time, for their time, sign your full name. Sometimes it's good to also put your PID, and then do not forget attachments, right? So unless your work, and when it comes to do not forget attachments there, if you're applying to a research lab by emailing this professor, then you definitely want to attach your resume or cover letter or CV or all of the above if it was asked by the professor in order to apply to the research lab, if that makes sense. So I think my rule of thumb for attachment is unless otherwise asked for, don't put any attachments. You don't have to put your transcript and stuff. But definitely if it's good to have your resume handy, right? So when you get to this stage and you're emailing, it's good to have your resume handy or at least have a template. All right. So tying it all together. And some of you may have been here for the whole RNI series, and some of you may have not. That's okay. This is for you too. So this is just tying everything together, research. So checking out programs, right? If you're interested in programs, ask yourself anything interesting, anything a good fit. Do they provide a faculty mentor? When will their application open? A lot of these questions, again, you can check out in our past research webinar, but something to consider. Looking at faculty, research groups, labs, and teams by topic. Using a table to stay organized is, or like a Google Doc, a list, however you do your search, definitely stay organized with who you want to contact, what research groups are interesting to you, what labs are interesting to you, what topics are interesting to you. Keep that in like one Google Doc. Number 3, identify your top choice faculty, right? Reading their recent work, looking into their faculty profiles, like the stuff that we went over today, definitely something to consider. Prep a resume relevant to who you will contact. So again, having a resume handy will be very helpful for you. I can provide a second pair of eyes if you need some resume support. We have our resume workshop webinar that you can check out. And then my last piece of advice when it comes to resume is, again, have a resume that's relevant and tweaked, that corresponds to that professor, right? So you don't want to send the same resume to everybody. You want to change it up a little bit. That's encouraged. 5, write an email. And then 6, connect with the professor, right? So working together to answer certain program application questions. And then 7 is submit applications, apply for multiple programs to better your chances. And again, I will say that definitely checking out our past research webinars will be helpful, because I talk about how different ways to get involved with research. It could be through a research program. It could be, doing research under the guidance of a faculty mentor. It could be joining a research lab. Different ways. So this is just tying it all together and just things for you to remember as you go on your search for research. All right. And before we go, if there's anybody in the webinar who is interested in doing social sciences research and you're a Spanish speaker, there is a field research opportunity that is available right now, or available to apply to right now. Applications are open now, rolling basis until week 0, which is September 29th. If you want more information, it is, can visit mmfrp.org for more info and application. This is the Migration Field Research Program, and it is being led by Professor Abigail Andrews. So again, if you visit that website and you're interested and you want to do social sciences research, I just wanted to plug this for Dr. Andrews. She's looking for specifically transfer students to join her team. So definitely wanted to shout her out for a second. All right. Yeah, so we are right on time. And that is all I have for today. And yeah, we definitely have plenty of time for questions. I see that there's one question in the chat. All right. So I have one question that I will answer live. How is the REAL portal? There are mostly biology research options. Yeah, so the REAL portal is, and I talked a little bit about the REAL portal in another research webinar. And my disclaimer when it comes to REAL portal is that it's not an exhaustive list. So you're not going to see every single UCSD research options on that portal. But if you're interested in non-biology research options, I definitely recommend looking into your major department website to see what kind of options there are. And if not, starting fall quarter, we can also meet one-on-one. Send me an email and we can talk about what kind of options we can look for that are not bio. All right. How do we schedule an appointment with you? So I'm not meeting with students yet. If you follow our social media, incoming transfer students will be automatically added to our transfer newsletter. Correct me if I'm wrong, Simon. So those two things is where I'm going to um, advertise my scheduling link. So I will have a scheduling link. If you follow us on Instagram, I most likely will do a post. If you open up our transfer newsletters, I will also have a date to when in fall quarter schedule appointments with me will open, but they're not open just yet. So great question. All right, so I'm reading the next one. Webinars, research credit courses. Their courses only open. Okay, so I see questions about Chem 197, 199, or Chem 99. I will say something that I will say about Chem 199 versus 99 is that 99 is for lower division students. Um, Assuming you are all upper division students because you're transfer students, you would likely do Chem 199 or 197. I don't know specifically about that chemistry department. What you could do is reach out to chemistry advising, but sometimes you do need an approval code to start that, to start like Chem 197 or 199, or have like some type of research proposal or proposal for a project. So it's different for every major department. So I would recommend looking into your chemistry advising department or major advisor for chemistry to know details on how to start. But generally, as far as I know, 199, 197, you're eligible because you're upper division. For the research opportunity just mentioned, do I have to be a social science major? Is there a link? Yes, mmfrp.org. And I went back to the slide so that you can see it. You can also email Abigail Andrews, which is a professor at alandrews@ucsd.edu. I think her preference is towards social science majors and Spanish speakers. And I think that's particularly because that research involves conducting interviews in Spanish. So I would double check if I think her preference is towards social sciences, but I would either email the professor or apply as well. Great question. Great. These are great questions. Yeah. If something else comes up, feel free to email our inbox at tritontransfers@ucsd.edu. Follow our social media too for updates, like those scheduling appointments. I'll likely have an announcement like research and involvement coordinator, book your appointment now. And then likely also on our website that will be updated too. And then also follow our TikTok and Instagram. It's just, we have fun videos on there too. All right. It is 12:44. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes in case more questions trickle in, but thank you so much for being here. And if you're a longtime watcher, thanks for tuning into the RNI series. Yeah, that is all we have. And again, I'll be here in case and other questions trickle in. Yeah. You're welcome. I'm glad to know it was helpful. All right, I see people logging off. No more questions. I will end it here. Thanks so much, everybody.